Midway through July now, it feels like the NFL season is quickly approaching. Welcome back, by the way. With the NFL season approaching, we know that not all teams are on the same playing field. Some teams we know are going to be really good, are going to be competing for the Super Bowl. Some teams we know are going to be really bad. But most teams are somewhere in the middle. We're going to have some surprising seasons from teams we don't expect to do that good. We're going to have some teams that underperform their expectations. But going into a season, no matter what the team is, I feel like any team I can describe in just 3 words to break it down to an easy level for everybody. So I'm going to try to describe every team in just 3 words about their situation heading into the season. Before we start though, I just want to say real quick, if you like any of this video, consider hitting that like button. If you want to see more content from me in the future, maybe hit that subscribe button. I'm going to have more NFL content coming down the pipeline as the season starts. Also going to do some more NBA content too. Those are my 2 main sports. And yeah, let's get into it. I'll stop shilling for now. Starting off in the NFC East, we're going to start with America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. So I'm going to start this video pissing somebody off because you can't say anything critical about them because their fans are going to get upset. And you can't say anything nice about them either because their haters are going to get upset. So I think it's a great place to start. Piss somebody off, get it out of the way, right? For the Dallas Cowboys, my 3 words are back the Dak. Look, there's reason to believe in this team, and I know their fans can be a little annoying and a little delusional, but there's reasons to believe in this team with the talent they have on this roster. With superstars like Diggs and Micah Parsons, and with CeeDee Lamb, there's reason to believe in the team with this talent, but that's never really been their problem. They've always had talent. It's always been a quarterback or coaching issue with them. I was never the biggest fan of Mike McCarthy, even from the jump when they hired him. I wasn't a big fan of it, but there's no changing coaches now. The only way to success is to trust Dak, which I know might be pretty hard after he threw the most interceptions in the league last year, even though he only played in 12 games. But if you go back and watch those interceptions, a lot of those 15 were pretty fluky. I think you have to expect him to have a bounce back year, but they are also the Dallas Cowboys, so you should also expect them to lose before the NFC Championship game again, as they always do. For the New York Football Giants, I have dimes or duds. Like for many teams across the league, their fate really does rely on the most important position, their quarterback. Danny Dimes is heading into his 5th year now and did have the best year of his career last season under new coach Brian Daboll. But even last year wasn't all that impressive. It really did feel like Brian Daboll was more managing what he could do with Daniel Jones rather than Daniel Jones being the reason for most of those wins. Daboll transformed the entire team last season, getting them to the playoffs for the first time since 2016, and legitimately might be one of the best coaches in the league already. But the turnaround might have came too soon. Them making the playoffs last year might have actually hurt their long term, as this quarterback class was loaded at the top with talent that I would have loved to see develop under Brian Daboll, just like Josh Allen did. Mainly Anthony Richardson. I mean, a strong-arm guy that can be incredibly mobile, that is incredibly raw coming out of college? Who does that sound like? But they didn't have a high enough pick to select one of those guys, so they had to pay Daniel Jones. We're just going to have to wait and see if he can live up to that contract. For the Philadelphia Eagles, mind the gap. To me, there's a huge gap between the Eagles and any other team in the NFC. From quarterback to skill positions to O-line to defense, they have all the talent they need to get back to another Super Bowl. The only thing that does concern me though, something that people aren't paying much attention to, is that they lost both their offensive and defensive coordinators in the offseason. That, along with the fact that they're replacing a lot of starters on defense with rookies, they might struggle a little early on. But still, the Eagles are far and away to me the best team in the NFC and the team I'm most confident in to get back to a Super Bowl. And the Washington Commanders, just add passer. How they finished 8-1 last year without a solid quarterback, sorry Heineke stands, is mostly due to their defense and the hands of Terry McLaurin. The team is actually sneakily solid, or would be if they actually knew who their quarterback was going to be. Right now it's looking like Sam Howell, a 5th round pick from 2 years ago that started 1 game last year. It sounded from reports like they were all in on him, now they're not all in on him, so I don't really know. The best way to solve their quarterback problems, though, might be to, if they start off slow in the season, just tank and draft Caleb Williams or Drake May next year. Moving to the NFC North and moving on to the Chicago Bears, I have Fields of Dreams. I'm sorry, the pun was too good. I had to take it. It was right there. But the NFC North right now is kind of a dream scenario, with no clear best team in the division and Aaron Rodgers now in New York. I love the addition of DJ Moore to finally give Justin Fields a true number one wide receiver for the first time, but the roster, especially on defense, is lacking in talent otherwise. The Bears are probably in rebuild mode, but depending on how long a leash Matt Eberflus thinks he has, he might have to try to win. Back-to-back worst team in the league seasons wouldn't look all that good. Is a surprise season in the cards? I'm not too sure about that, but one or two teams every year surprises us like this to make the playoffs. Last year was the Seahawks, so it's possible. But for that to happen, Justin Fields has to reach his full potential. For the Detroit Lions, Kings or Cubs? This is really a prove-it year for this Lions rebuild. They've been drafting really well over the last few drafts. They finished 9-8 last year, finishing 8-2 in their last 10 games. Jared Goff looks solid enough, and the team has looked really good under Coach Campbell, especially offensively, and they would run through a wall for him. The man knows how to fire people up. A lot of people now have the Lions as a favorite to win the NFC North, but they really haven't done all that much to earn that yet. I mean, the Vikings won the division last year, and they're still in the division. They didn't go anywhere. The question they really got to answer to determine if they're really contenders is their defense. They finished dead last in defensive yards last year and didn't really do all that much in the offseason to address that. If they can fix it though, which they did sort of towards the end of the year, they can be one of the best teams in the NFC, considering it is a pretty weak NFC. For the Green Bay Packers, I have crazy, stupid, love. Crazy is in their crazy good defense with first-rounders up and down the roster that can control and win games late into the season. Stupid as in their stupid draft decisions, especially over the last few years, where they refuse to take offensive firepower to help an aging Aaron Rodgers out. And love as in their new starting quarterback, Jordan Love, who was drafted all the way back in 2020, like I said, stupid, probably, draft decisions, is finally going to get to start now that Aaron Rodgers is out. There's been some conflicting reports coming out of camp on whether he's the next franchise great or a bust in the making. The Packers' success relies on him making that draft and stash worth it. Packers fans haven't been witness to non-Hall of Fame level quarterback play since before Brett Favre in 1991. So I'm a little worried on if he's not been worth that draft and stash, how harsh the reaction is going to be. And for the Minnesota Vikings, ceiling or Flores? The Vikings offense has a ceiling as high as any other across the league, but their defense was truly horrible last year. Bringing in Brian Flores as defensive coordinator is huge, and I cannot understate how huge that is, but we need to see it pay off first, and that might prove pretty tough. They lost Patrick Peterson, Eric Kendricks, and Zadarius Smith last year, so turning that team around might be tougher than you think, but if anyone can do it, it's Brian Flores. The real question they got to answer though is which was the fluke? Was it the great regular season with the horrible margin of victory, or was it the collapse against the Giants? That's the question that Kirk and Jefferson have to answer. To the NFC South in the Atlanta Falcons, I have playoffs, good Ridder-ance. Look man, what is there to say? I mean, this team is going to be pretty bad next year probably. They have a chance, I guess, in the worst division in football, but with Desmond Ridder starting at quarterback, I don't know how big of a chance that is. Bijan Robinson getting drafted to the run-heaviest team in the league is going to be really fun to watch. I'm going to be trying to get him in fantasy football, but outside of him, this team is going to be a rough watch next year. For the Carolina Panthers, young and restless. After going 7-10 last year, even after trading away Christian McCaffrey, now landing their franchise quarterback Bryce Young, although they did have to get rid of DJ Moore to do it, I feel pretty good about this team heading into next season, especially considering how weak the division is. The rest of the team has improved as well. The real question is going to be, is Frank Reich the right hire? Because it seems like the Panthers can never really get it right at head coach. So I'm sure their fans are going to be restless for them to finally figure it out and get a good head coach there. If he is the right hire though, to me, this is really the Panthers' division to lose. For the the New Orleans Saints, cars, dead-end road. The Saints are probably the best team talent-wise in what is by far the weakest division in football. The winners of the division last year, the Buccaneers, won it with a losing record and now lost their starting quarterback. So it's not really saying all that much to say that they're probably the best team talent-wise. To me, this Derek Carr signing is kind of a desperate attempt to stay relevant. They signed him to a huge contract, so if he can stay healthy, I think they probably should do okay and make the playoffs. But it just seems like a desperate attempt to stay somewhat relevant, but eventually they're going to have to bottom out, because I just don't see them being taken as a serious threat with the team that they have right now. If their offensive weapons can stay healthy, I think they'll make the playoffs no problem. But to be honest, that is a huge if for this team. And for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tomless in Tampa. With Tom Brady now finally actually staying retired, I think, the Buccaneers might be the worst team in all of football next year. I don't know what happened with Bruce Arians, but he should have probably just stayed the coach, because Todd Bowles might be a great defensive coordinator, but he has just never showed it as a head coach. He just hasn't. With Baker Mayfield as the likely starter at quarterback next year, this team is 100% tanking for the top pick. Caleb Williams might as well start looking for homes in Tampa. And to the NFC West, for the Arizona Cardinals, sell the team. Stealing from Oakland Athletic fans a little bit on this one, but it just fits so perfectly that I had to. Now, it's a little brutal, but let me explain why it's totally fair to say. With Dan Snyder, the vile ex-owner of the Commanders, finally selling the team, there's a good case now that Michael Bidwell, the owner of the Cardinals, is now the worst owner in the league. Bidwell didn't earn, but rather got nepotismed into ownership of the team 2 times over, with his grandfather passing the team down to his father, and then his father now down to him. Now, that doesn't necessarily make him a bad owner just because he got it passed down to him, but in the NFLPA's report cards that were released earlier this year that surveyed players, they ranked second last only above the Commanders, getting an F in treatment of families, nutrition, weight room, training room, and locker room. Players complained of uneven and peeling floors in the weight room, outdated training rooms, and even that they had to pay for food that they took out of the facility, the only team in the league to do that. And that's not even mentioning Bidwell kept Steve Keim on as GM even after an extreme DUI charge. He's accused of talking to Keim during his suspension for the DUI charge on a burner phone, and now he's accused of racial discrimination in the workplace. So I say again, sell the team. For my Los Angeles Rams, price of all in. Actions have consequences, and not having a first-round pick for 7 straight drafts was bound to catch up to you at some point. And last year, it finally did, with little depth to cover for a veteran roster that was hit hard with injuries. The trades the Rams made did end up getting them a Super Bowl win, so in the end, it was all worth it. But this is the price tag of that ambition, a very depleted, top-heavy roster. But with a hopefully healthy pairing of Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp back next season, plus the best defensive player of all time still on your defensive line, Sean McVay has taken worse rosters to the playoffs. The real question is going to be if they fix their offensive line in the offseason. If it's as bad as it was last year, there's no telling how long Matthew Stafford's going to be able to stay upright anyways. For the San Francisco 49ers, looking pretty good. Coach Shanahan, widely considered one of the best in the league, and deservedly so, has gotten his 49ers deep into the playoffs 3 of the last 4 years. But so far, they've fallen short of holding the Lombardi. The team is stacked with talent, especially on defense, and continues to draft pretty well. The one spot that has plagued this team is at quarterback, the one spot they can't seem to find a star. Garoppolo was a pretty good game manager that did just enough of what Shanahan wanted to get the job done and to win games, especially in the regular season. But the team wanted more, so they drafted Trey Lance 3rd overall in 2021. He looked ready to take over the reins last year before a horrific injury forced them back to Jimmy Garoppolo, before another injury forced them to 2022's last pick of the draft, Brock Purdy. Now, Purdy impressed so much to end last season that even with Trey Lance back, it looks like Brock Purdy is going to be the starter. But I still don't know that Purdy is that star that they were looking for. And I think that's going to come back to bite them when they get in the playoffs again, and he has to go toe-to-toe with the NFL's best. And finally, for the Seattle Seahawks, Baby Hawks plus Geno. The youth movement after moving on from Russell Wilson is off to an incredible start. The draft class last year was as good as you could possibly hope for. The running back Kenneth Walker led all rookies in rushing yards. Tariq Woolen, a fourth or fifth round pick, led in rookie interceptions. And another corner, Kobe Bryant, no relation, led in forced fumbles for rookies. After adding another corner, Devon Weatherspoon, and wide receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba in the first round of this year's draft, their future looks insanely bright. The only question is going to be if Geno Smith can repeat that Pro Bowl performance from last year. That was the first time in his entire career he's made the Pro Bowl, and he's already 32. Let's be honest, this probably isn't your quarterback of the future, but maybe he's enough for right now to lead this team, this very young team, to a deep playoff run. And that's going to be the last team for today's video because that's the last NFC team. If you want to see the AFC version, get this video to 50 likes and I'll release it. Who am I kidding? I'm going to release it anyways, don't worry, but I would really appreciate it if we could get this video to 50 likes. If you want to see that AFC video as soon as it pops up, as soon as it's done, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Just make sure it pops up in your feed. I would really appreciate it too. I'm trying to get this channel up to 1,000 subscribers, build up the community. So hopefully you can be a part of it. This is my second time I had to record this video because the first time my audio didn't want to work, so it was very frustrating, but I powered through anyways. Yeah, I'll see you guys later. I'll see you guys for the AFC video. Hopefully I see you there. Later. Bye.